technology, and he joins us from Pasadena, California. Eric, I have so many questions about all that has happened over the last few days. First of all, aftershocks are continuing. After you have, I would say, one earthquake of this magnitude, but it was really two earthquakes of that same magnitude within 10 hours of each other. For how long can we expect somewhat large aftershocks to continue, or is there just no way of knowing?
The aftershocks will continue for weeks, but we don't know exactly when the largest aftershocks will be. The uh, the number of aftershocks will decrease with time, but the magnitude does not always decrease. This is something that you can have a later aftershock that's still quite a large magnitude. So this is something that people should be prepared for as they continue the rescue and recovery operations, is being ready for additional large aftershocks.
You know, I'm looking at the seismic activity within Turkey. There have been 20 earthquakes just within the last 24 hours. Just today, there was a 5.4 quake in Adıyaman in Turkey. I mean, on a normal day, a 5.4 quake would be felt. That in itself is quite a large aftershock, isn't it?
Well, yes, I think you're going to be getting magnitude 5.5 earthquakes several times a day for at least another week. That's something that you just have to expect. It's something that is typical for this very large type of earthquake. 7.8 is one of the largest earthquakes on a continental fault that we see. The largest earthquakes in subduction zones are a more different type of earthquake, but this is right on land with the fault rupture through populated areas. So the damage is much worse because of the close proximity of the fault to the people.
And I know so much of this, you know, when a tectonic plate is going to move is anyone's guess. Sometimes there are some signs leading up to it. Sometimes there are none. So you have now in Turkey and the surrounding area, in densely populated areas, for example, Istanbul, where we are right now, people worried that these quakes that have just happened in the Far East, could they affect people in Istanbul? Does it make a quake, for example, here, more likely?
The general rule is that the area affected by a large earthquake is proportional to the size of the fault rupture of that earthquake. We're still trying to get the satellite images that should be acquired later today to better understand what was the length of this fault rupture from the magnitude 7.8. That we are thinking that it's probably around 400 kilometers long. So that means that the effects are going to be within about 400 kilometers or so of the fault that ruptured this week.
Tell us about that, what that means. Oh, go ahead,
Istanbul
go ahead. Sorry, continue.
Further away than that, so there's no chance that that Istanbul will be directly affected by this earthquake in the southeast of Turkey.
So when you have movement along one fault line, and this was the East Anatolian Fault, correct? That doesn't necessarily mean that the other fault lines that might crisscross it, that might be nearby, are also going to be moved or affected by that.
Well, it certainly will put new stresses onto all the faults that are within that 400 kilometer distance of the 7.8 earthquake. So we don't know all the details of what the stresses are on those faults, but we can tell that the fault rupture of the 7.8 has moved the stress onto other faults, and in fact that's highly likely that the 7.5 had the stress, the fault had a much increase of stress due to the 7.8, and that's why the 7.5 aftershock occurred so soon after the 7.8.
Now, in some,
And so we can
sorry.
expect other faults in the area similarly affected.
Got it. And you know, in some earthquake areas, when scientists know that stress has been building up along a fault, and then you might have a series of a few small earthquakes, it's viewed as a good thing that that could help eliminate the possibility of a very large earthquake at one time. But in this situation, you have plates pressing inward toward the Anatolian plate. So this release of energy, would that have relieved the area for a while, or is this just an entirely different kind of situation?
Well, with these plate boundary faults, like the East Anatolian Fault and the North Anatolian Fault, the plates are continuing to move continuously at depth, and it's the upper part of the fault that's locked with and eventually fails. So you would need a huge number of smaller earthquakes to relieve all the stress that's accumulating at depth. Um, and the East Anatolian Fault, especially on the western end, hasn't had large earthquakes for maybe 300 years. And that's why this enough stress built up to have this 7.8 earthquake. The
Very
North
interesting.
Anatolian Fault had a number of earthquakes in the last century. So some of that stress has been relieved by those magnitude 7 earthquakes in the 1900s.
So in this area, I mean, this enormous area that has already been affected, is it still risky? Is there still the risk of large earthquakes happening following these two?
I think there's not going to be enough stress left in the crust there to cause another 7.8, but there could easily be more 7 level earthquakes, not that on adjacent faults. The largest earthquakes will take maybe hundreds of years for the stress to build up again, but there's enough change in the stress in the area to have more magnitude 7s, I'm afraid. We had a magnitude 6.8 in that area to the east just 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, in January 2020. So it's the East Anatolian Fault seems to be moving into an active phase, but now I think this 7.8 has relieved the stress on a large part of it. We are waiting for the satellite images to become available in the next few days to better understand which parts of the fault have slipped and which parts have not slipped yet. So that's we're looking forward to the radar satellite images that will be available in just the next few days.
You know, when you watch these hundreds and hundreds of rescue workers sift through that rubble while aftershocks are actively going on, it really highlights the risk that they put themselves in to try to save people.
Yes, no, it's they're brave people to go into these situations and do the urban search and rescue operations.
All right, Eric Fielding.
And it requires some training
Sorry.
to be good at do it correctly.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, so I keep interrupting you. Eric Fielding, excellent to tap into your expertise there. Thanks for sharing it with us.